It's the Wolf Media Festival podcast. Today's guests: the director of the music video, The Girl Who Faded Away, Brent Heise. And now, here's your hosts, Kyle Hollingsworth, Richard Wilmore, and Jack Quellen Wolfhart.
The Girl Who Faded Away is a music film that has won over 80 awards since premiering earlier this year. In June, it won 3 Wolf Media Fest awards. And today we got to talk to the Best Director winner, Brent Heise. Hi, Brent.
Hi, hello, Richard.
How are you?
Well, I'm doing excellent, and I'm so glad to be here with you.
80 awards, and we're, a little over halfway through the year already. How does it feel?
Well, it's an exhilarating and very positive experience that I just want to continue and grow and just see where this movie can go.
Are you shocked by that? Or is that like, I knew this was going to happen?
Well, it's sort of one of these things that I wanted it to happen, and so it is. It's kind of like I intended for this to be very successful.
Can you tell everybody
yes.
About the music video?
Sure. First, I want to set the stage a little for how this came to be in a relationship that I have with the executive producer. So in an incredible piece of artistic time travel, famous American music executive and former musician George Daly thought back to a time 60 years ago to his now deceased fellow bandmate Tom Guernsey's beautiful but unknown love song, The Girl Who Faded Away. We now have the powerful and globally popular 2024 short film of the same name. George and I have partnered together to make a remarkable short film. Celebrated at the 45th Annual Telly Awards, it is a heartfelt tribute to George's late bandmate, Tom, who passed away from ALS, leaving behind his beloved wife, Adrienne. With a friendship spanning over 60 years, George wanted to support Adrienne, now 81 and still working, by creating something meaningful from Tom's unreleased music. Inspired by Tom's song, The Girl Who Faded Away, our film not only honors Tom's legacy, but also provides tangible assistance to Adrienne. This project exemplifies how love and friendship can transform grief into a powerful act of service, reminding us that true connections endure even in the face of loss. So with that being said, I want to just say it's been a tremendous privilege and honor to work first with Tom Guernsey before his untimely passing, and then his former bandmate, George Daly.
How long has this been in the works?
Well, for me, it's been 12 years.
Wow.
So it's taken some time, yes.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that process and what has been happening in the last 12 years?
Well, sure. So I've been a editorial supervisor at an animation house in Portland, Oregon. And Tom's widow, Adrienne, would pass by this animation studio, always thinking and always wanting the next project, that Tom and I would have worked on to somehow come to fruition. So I had left off with Tom making a music video, On the Road at 17. And it was a little bit of an accounting of his lifelong passion for, storytelling, songwriting, and how he didn't completely get the word out like he had wanted. When Tom was passing away, I was at his bedside in that, critical period. And I told him that I would get the word out about his music. And so the last exchange between Tom and I was that he gave me a thumbs up as he was on a ventilator. He could not speak to me anymore. And so with that in mind, Adrienne introduced me to George Daly, and the rest is kind of history at this point. George Daly and I have had a very good chemistry and kind of similar interest in helping out Adrienne and getting Tom's song out there.
So can we talk a little bit about like what a music film is? It's not necessarily like and maybe I'm wrong, I have no idea. So you tell me, like a documentary, music video, like you would see on, MTV. Like, can you tell everybody kind of what what they're getting themselves into, like what the process is or what the film is.
Sure. Well, this is a short film, and instead of just being a music video, this is a movie that sort of has a build up. Like it has an establishing narrative that precedes the song. So the song begins after we've already kind of come to understand there's some kind of mysterious circumstances between a man and an owl, and a journey that he's taking that we're now kind of understanding to be something that's cerebral, but could be mistaken for being reality at times. So this is a short film, and the song is the sort of muse.
I know the trailer is on YouTube. And where can people find the film?
Well, right now it's in the festival circuit, so there are 4
Okay.
screenings in the next 5 weeks, taking place very diverse places: Philadelphia and Fort Smith, Arkansas, and the TCL Grauman's Chinese Theater. There's another showing at that. That's where it premiered back in February, and then there's one in India. And the last one is escaping me at the moment, but
Are you going to be able to go to any of them?
well, yeah, and that brings me to the last one I forgot. The Portland Festival of Cinema, Animation, and Technology happens at Oregon Museum of Science and Industry on August 24th, and that's exciting because they have a little section devoted to Portland filmmakers in what is a global festival of animation.
Wow. How long have you been in filmmaking?
I've been making movies since childhood. So when I was around 10 years old, I had a Minolta Super 8mm camera, and I would enlist, other kids or my cousins, and direct them. It's something that people are generally open to if you act like you know what you're doing. And
Uh-huh. Confidence, right?
yeah.
Did you have like a artistic family, or were you the one that kind of went down that route?
Well, I am a distant relation to Howard Pyle, who's an illustrator from Delaware. He illustrated some really incredible books like Robin Hood, Gulliver's Travels. He's part of the kind of Wyeth school of painting that's known in that part of the country. So yes, I mean, artistic endeavors were always sort of where I belonged in life.
When did you decide that it was how you wanted your life to be, and that's what you were going to do?
Well, when Star Wars came out, and in the opening, the camera tilts down to this Imperial cruiser coming in overhead, firing at the rebel ship with its classical music, and I was just in awe of this massive experience on the screen unfolding that was so much larger than life and such an incredible inspiration. Everybody in school was trading Star Wars cards, and it was all the rage for good reason.
Was that like the moment that you were like, okay, this is it. This is what I need to be doing?
It was, because I realized that if you can entertain people, if you can put people together in a space and give them all an amazing ride, an amazing journey that's kind of mutually shared, that it's just a thing of joy. It's so much fun.
Can we talk a little bit about like the evolution of filmmaking? And I feel like even from when I was a kid, the watching those old films, like we were watching I think it was like in the 60s, like Cinderella and all of those, like where they built sets and there was no really green screens. What's your favorite way to create like that? And do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing to kind of go that CGI everything route?
Well, for me, I like live action, and I like working with people, and I think people bring something to the table that you can't imbue them with. They bring it. And so working with the 2 actors of this particular movie, I felt like there was a kind of chemistry, and that is hard, I think, as an artist to imbue to somebody, and to do it in a way that feels, well, for instance, if you're trying to create pathos, if you're trying to create a little bit of a sense of sadness about something, well, what is in the human eye, for instance, is kind of difficult in CG. So, you have to actually have a person that looks like they've had the experience, and they have to kind of, in a sense, typecast in a way, just to get in the ballpark, just to even be, believable. And I think it's less, there's less empathy in a way, the whole uncanny valley effect of watching something that's not completely human and just not even feeling it. When bad stuff happens to them, the world becomes a little bit like a video game. So I really like live action. I really like seeing live people, and whether that's green screen or however you do to take them into the fantasy that you want to. In my case, there was a lot of rotoscoping, but it was a lot of fun.
What's that?
Oh, well, rotoscoping is just masking somebody out. So it's cutting
Hmm.
the contour of the person, getting them from one place to another just by using them as an element.
You have to constantly, I assume, be learning all the time in this field, right?
Yeah, there's AI on the horizon. It's here, and there's a lot happening technologically. But I think at the very root, what we really want to do is we want to make a story that is full of kind of magic and wonder and love that we can spread. So, in other words, when I wanted to tell this story, from this song, the song was a basis of inspiration, but it's a sort of timeless ballad in a way. I could see this song having been written hundreds of years ago, in the same way that the Elvis ballad "Love Me Tender" is from a Scottish, traditional song from hundreds of years ago. I could see this song being the same timeless ballad if people only knew about it.
Hmm.
So I really felt like, of everything that I knew about Tom, that this was something that could help to immortalize his contributions to music, and George Daly, for that matter, as his band.
Yeah. Can we talk a little bit about what that timeline is? Because it's in the festival circuit now. And then how long does it kind of stay in that circuit? And then what happens next?
Well, I want to see how far it can go. I want to, you know, go higher and higher to Academy Award qualifying festivals with it. And so far, we're working on it. But it's all
Mhm.
part of, I think, making the world know that it's here, and it's going to be a little bit of exposure, I think, in media. So I think we're kind of shooting for that on our next stretch, and just promoting through social media, continuing what we're doing, and then just each festival I celebrate. So for instance, the connection with Wolf Media Fest has been, very rewarding. The Facebook comment that Wolf Media Fest put on this film is kind of the nicest that I've ever seen. It said something to the effect of, this should be a full length movie," and that was a very high compliment. So I was really glad to share that.
Would that ever be an option?
It could. I wouldn't say
Yeah.
no. Um, I think one of the
Mm.
things is leaving people wanting more is part of the magic of what is there now. So you'd really have to elaborate quite a bit to get an hour and a half out of what we're working with. But it represents um, a small part of something that is much bigger. You know that there's a bigger story with what's being shown, and that the man who has this phonograph and listens to this song has a lot of trial and tribulation, and we don't see all of that. We only see kind of his daydream. So there's a lot that
Mm.
could be extrapolated.
Do you have a favorite project that you've worked on in your career?
Well, this is my favorite project by far. It's definitely been the most successful, but also it's one from the heart. It's a case of um, art imitating life a little bit. What happened was, I was at a party at a historic preservation society, and there was a guy in character calling himself DJ Powerless, and this is Eric Schopmeyer. And Eric was teaching people about jazz music and playing old vinyl, and it's scratchy and all of that kind of stuff. But it has a sort of warmth, and also just the kind of human connection that you make, because you want that at a party. You want to kind of meet and greet, but also learn a little bit about other people. And so Eric was sort of an open book about his love of music, and I just decided he has the kind of introvert personality that could pen a song like The Girl Who Faded Away. This is very much of a song that speaks to a kind of poet, a kind of introvert poet who has some level of remorse and is a little bit caught in the past, dwelling on things. And so, yeah, in terms of that, and then Theresa Hanson, who's done an amazing job in this project. Well, she was actually a starlet at this same location in burlesque shows. So I came across her because she's known as Reza La Rêve, and she's and in French, La Rêve, a dream. So she's like a dream persona in her stage act. And so I thought, well, this is really kind of interesting and mysterious and makes a lot of sense in terms of a story that I wouldn't have to be reinventing these people. They would actually be kind of in character. And if you put them together, there would be an interesting chemistry. And it really turned out like that.
Gosh. What advice, you've been in the game for so long, what advice do you have for filmmakers out there?
Well, my advice is to develop a personal perspective that's unique, for one, because I think when you're dealing with a smaller budget, you don't want to really be predictable. And you also need to kind of innovate. And I think the auteur style really fits well for independent filmmaking. So, in other words, there needs to be a real strong director's vision in the piece, and that has to be a little bit uncompromising in a way. And then it has to be genuine. Otherwise, you get to the end of a movie and the whole thing was like a practical joke on the viewer. You feel like you've just been had. You've been manipulated, and you don't really like that. So I wouldn't want people to feel like they've been had or manipulated. I really want people to have the kind of symbiotic, empathetic, emotional response. That's because it is from the heart what you're saying in the first place. It is authentic.
How do you choose which festivals to submit your work to?
Started with a shotgun approach, not really knowing, not having a lot of experience with film festivals, and found out that, it's hard to get into the biggest ones for sure. So trying to figure that out has been a learning process. However, I think that, submitting to ones that are not IMDb accredited and ones that are IMDb accredited is good, because you're helping to build some alliances with people who will potentially become, long-term allies. And it is kind of a community. I mean, I really noticed that the film festivals are a little bit interconnected. And I think that they start to get a sense of that you're a promoter and you're a positive player, you're a team player. And so on social media, I really noticed that if you're very positive about the festival that you're in, other festivals are interested in you. They think that you're going to be helping to promote their festival. So it is mutually beneficial to be involved. And, having the IMDb credit I like, but I don't always make a judgment about a festival based on that. I think you have to look at the kind of content and the type of, emphasis that they seem to be after. And I've tried lots of angles. I think that there's an angle that's just this is a romance. And in India, that idea has played very well. There have been a lot of Indian festivals that seem like they like what would look like a little bit of a soap opera or something like that. And it has that quality. So that's an angle, but it also has an angle of being like a VFX, supernatural or fantasy. So that's another angle.
Okay, so definitely do some research and not just throw it out there, right? To anything that'll accept them. That's good.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's always wise.
Yeah. I know you're obviously concentrating on the publicity of this. Are you working on anything right now or anything coming up that you can chat about?
Well, I'm trying to get the next project together with George Daly, and he has a lot of connections in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I don't know how much I can say about those connections at this moment, but what I would say is that the next one hopefully will be a similar type of project. That it would be, oriented towards music and oriented towards the poetic, and it would be live action narrative. Those are all the things that we want to do, going forward. And CG not so much, AI not so much.
What's the best way that people can connect with you and follow you and support your work?
Well, my Instagram accounts, The Girl Who Faded Away Film, is just getting underway now. So I really want to build that as kind of a brand, that the film itself. I'm Brent Heise Productions on Instagram. And then I am Portland Editor on X, and Brent Heise Productions on Facebook. Those are the ones that I've been mostly focused on. And then my website,
You're very
brentheise.com,
busy.
has a little bit of a rundown of the awards to date, and the trailer and the poster, just the basic things, some of the reviews.
What are you finding? I know we're almost out of time and I have to let you go. So, but I'm curious as we're talking about social media and promotion, where you're finding are great places to do that and maybe some where they're not so great. Are you finding that, people are super interactive on Facebook as opposed to something else or?
Well, I would say that Instagram seems to cast the widest net in terms of people that I've never met, but have like-minded interests. There's a lot of action there, by way of the festivals themselves that you enter. You'll note the other people that are also getting the awards and the selections, and that's the best experience. There's been a little bit of a trail off, I'd say, on Facebook, but I've not given up on that because a lot of what's on Facebook is pretty personal. They tend to start out with your friendship, your kind of inner circle of people, and then I think that there's also the potential, because Instagram is connected with Facebook, that those things kind of belong together. They're sort of married in a way.
Yeah, they definitely interact. Well, congratulations on your awards. I'm so excited about them because I just think it's such an explosion and I love it. And there's so much hard work that goes into it. So I'm glad it's paying off for you. And I appreciate you being here today.
Well, it's been my pleasure, Richard. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Brent Heise, everyone. We will be right back after this.
Thank you.
Brent.